I'm trying to, there we go. We still got crickets. All right, let's just get into it. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I've tapped on them. I blooped them. They don't work. Here's the deal. A lot of people want to know whether or not at the end of the day, if they report something to SSA OIG, the Office of Inspector General, if they want to do like a retaliatory thing, or they want to do the right thing and report somebody who's committing fraud, abuse, etc., is there any retaliation against them? Do they ever get investigated, etc.? Now, let's just go through the SSA side with this thing. The SSA wants you to report it. There's ways that you can report it by being anonymous. There's ways that you can report it by not being anonymous. The SSA's system prefers a method of not going after the person who reports the information. There's even whistleblower statutes specifically to protect government employees, not so much you, but the government employees that are reporting it. Now, here's the thing, okay, that you have to keep in mind with this situation. If that person, which we do see happen with spouses that are no longer spouses, if that person goes ahead and reports, just to be very clear, false, misleading, malicious information about some Social Security recipient, and that information, upon their investigation, shows that this person was just retaliating, creating this false scenario, and basically spiting the person that they were trying to report. In that situation, let me just tell you, those people who go after Social Security recipients and report false information in some way or fashion, they're going to get investigated. Now, if you report information to the SSA and that information leads to a crime that you might have committed, leads to a tax crime, some sort of a physical harm crime, or this crime, then you know what I mean? That could lend to essentially you getting investigated. Now, let's say you send in some false info, because that's something that they do tend to investigate. So first they have to figure out, detection of the false information. Is it false? Why is it false? How do they know it's false? Yada, yada. Then they go to 18 USC section 1001 for false statements. It's federal statute's a crime to knowingly and willfully make a false statement or use false documents in any matter within the jurisdiction of a federal agency, which includes the SSA and obviously their baby, the Office of Inspector General. When that happens, you are setting yourself up for a shitty situation. Why? Because at the end of the day, you then have a problem. There's a Social Security Act provision, section 1129 and 1632, prohibiting false statements. There is basically a harassment opportunity that the Social Security recipient could potentially bring against you, intent to defraud, right? The Social Security recipient. What happens next? Will the SSA go ahead and prosecute against the person who snitched or gave false information on the Social Security recipient? Yeah, they'll hand it over to the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office. They take it, they begin the prosecution, they will prosecute against you. The Department of Justice goes after criminal charges. There might be civil penalties, fines imposed, administration types of situations. And all right, let me tell you the way this usually comes down. It's not usually one person just giving false information. Usually somebody is a Social Security recipient and they're doing something wrong. And then, right, at that point, they were doing something wrong. Somebody will send in information on them. Now, look, the SSA understands that sometimes you don't know the full picture and you're going to report something and you're like, hey, I think he might be doing this. I think she might be doing that. That's fine. Nobody ever knows the absolute truth. There's no way to have that. That's different, though, from somebody who meticulously takes time to create a case that clearly has fraud, improper information, incorrect information in it against that recipient. That's different. When somebody's trying to mess somebody else's life up with fake info, that's different. That's different than the SSA knows you're trying to report something, but you don't know the whole thing. When it's this one over here and you're trying to get them, you're trying to go after them, the ex-wife thing, the ex-husband thing, although it's usually the ex-wife thing, then in that instance, right, that's what they're looking at. Prosecution, Department of Justice takes over. They will look at good faith attempts. Okay. Were you just mistaken when you reported the information, when you snitched on the Social Security recipient? Okay. Did you submit things anonymous and then thereafter it became clear that you weren't anonymous as you were submitting things? Did you have an intent to harass the Social Security recipient? Did you have an intent to increase the likelihood of consequences against them? Did you have an intent to seek malicious actions against the Social Security recipient? My point with this is, just so that you understand, is to understand that you're not always free and clear, especially if you're not anonymous, when reporting people about Social Security fraud. The SSA OIG wants the reports. They want to know. They want to be aware. They want to see them. They understand people don't know the whole story. But if you waste their time, they're going to waste your time too. And you don't want to do that. OIG has a lot of things to investigate. Okay. You don't want them investigating you. So if you're going to go ahead and try and turn somebody in, you know the reason I'm doing this video, right? You know, because I get calls of people, I'm going to go after this person. I'm going to ruin their life. If you want to turn somebody in, follow the basic rule that you tell them the truths that you know, and you tell them the things that you don't know, but you give them a notice that you're not sure if it is correct. That way, you're staying truthful, moral high ground. You feel like you got the justice you deserve. Because remember, you're not justice. Although you might think, you're, hey, look at you with the little gavel. Hey. But realistically, they're the justice. Department of Justice will go ahead and work with essentially this situation. And the whole point of it, just to be clear, is that you have to let them go through the process. If the person's a bad person receiving Social Security benefits improperly, illegally, etc., they're going to go get them. They're going to go through the process. Sometimes I've seen them not get the person. I've seen them not do the magic. I've seen that happen too. Here's my thing about it. A lot of people don't realize that when somebody does something wrong, to you, it's like a you story. So it's massive. This person's doing this. How dare they? Right? Okay. You got to remember, in the scale of what OIG has to deal with when investigating, they've got to deal with mega fraud. Somalians and Nigerians using server setups, computers, using implanted employees in banks. I mean, they got to deal with that level of stuff. They got to deal with big fraud. Your thing isn't not important. It is important. It's just, remember, there's a scale to things of how much money they can spend to look into something. That's important. A lot of people aren't employers, have never been an employer. The thing that dictates how successful justice will be is usually based off of the resources available to create a case. And the resources are not unlimited. They're just not. Okay? That's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's something that you should understand because it's crucial to this system. All right. With that said, I've got to go and answer calls. It's the last day that the law firm will be open before the Christmas holiday. I will catch you all a little bit later. Please be kind to each other. Remember, if you have Medicare questions, you want to learn about Medicare, give these guys a call. I don't do Medicare. Okay. They'll go ahead and, teach you stuff. You'll learn stuff. It'll be great. I don't do Medicare, and I trust them to basically, they're the only group that I think they are the only group that looks at every single policy that's out there in America. They're the only one that's like big enough that does all of that, which means they get to figure out what's out there. You know what I mean? Now, with that said, if you have questions about Medicare, again, I don't do that. Give them a call. I will be live later tonight. I'm going to set the video that we're supposed to do right after this one as one of the first or second videos that we do tonight. I'm not doing a super stressful day today with tons of work outside. I've been doing that over the past couple of days. I've been beat up. I will catch you all a little bit later. Please be kind to each other. Happy holidays. For those of you who are enjoying Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. For those of you enjoying Christmas, let's see that tree. I'll catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll rock and roll from there. Attorney Walter Hnot, thank you so much for being a part of this channel. Thank you so much for being a part of the change that we need to make Social Security last into the future, exist, grow, like survive. That's crucial. So let's make it last. All right. I don't know why the camera zooms in. I will catch you all later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll rock and roll from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.